Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the BoomBastiCAST. We have a treat for y'all today. Personal friend of the show, the great Courtney Gaines. You might know this gentleman from a film like Children of the Corn, you know what I mean? Or maybe some films faster, like Alexander Hawk likes to get fast. There's nobody faster than Alex Hawk. And some films like The Burbs, fantastic masterpiece. Colors, incredible. You know, Courtney's also a super talented musician, got a band doing it. You're going to hear a lot about that in this episode. This was a real pleasure to sit down with Courtney. I got a chance to work with Courtney in like 2013, 2014, I think it was. We did the House Across the Street film, and it was a pleasure, man. It was a pinnacle. It was a beautiful thing. You know, I think to date, that's probably the biggest film that I was a producer on. And we had nice four name actors up in that thing. It was in it big. And that film will always be a beautiful part of my filmography. And it was a pleasure to have Courtney in that, and a pleasure to have him on the show. We're about to kick into it. Do you want to say anything before we bring Courtney in?
Just that I've been a big fan. I mean, I loved him in, of course, Children of the Corn. Go check out Children of the Corn episode that we did for Dead Kids Dairy. That was a lot of fun. We had fun. We joked around, but it's still a fun film. And definitely, I think that Courtney Gaines character definitely is the highlight of that film.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and there's also more recently he was in the sequel to Becky, which is Wrath of Becky, which if anyone knew, Becky was the one where you had Kevin James as a skinhead. Personally, my opinion, his best performance ever. And in this one, you have Sean William Scott as the lead villain, and you have Courtney Gaines, who's playing Twig in that. And that was nice seeing him. And he has a bunch of other things coming out. And like Matt said, the music going on. So he's keeping busy, and he's very multi-talented and a lot of fun to talk to.
Hell yeah. So with that being said, let's get into some films and some music with the great Courtney Gaines. Courtney, welcome to the BoomBastiCAST.
Boombastic.
Yeah. Hell yeah. It's great to have you on the show, man.
Thanks.
It's it's been a long time coming. I feel, me and Courtney worked together years ago on the House Across the Street film. So,
right.
Yeah, it's very cool to have him. Been a fan.
Yeah, good to see you again. And we've been talking about doing this for a while. I kept saying, wait for the record to come out, and it kept getting pushed and kept getting pushed. I thought it had been out a lot earlier this year, but it's finally coming out October 2nd. So
heck yeah. Yeah, we're excited for it. Safe haven.
Yes, sir.
Everybody be on the lookout for that. That's everybody check out Courtney's YouTube page too, for sure. Go subscribe to that. There's a lot of music up there as well for them to check into and get a taste, the flavor. You know what I mean?
There you go.
So, Alex, how you doing over there? I feel like I've been talking a lot.
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I gotta say, one of the things that I'm very curious about is your very first film, which is Children of the Corn, which is definitely one of my favorite Stephen King films, and also it's your very first film. I'm just curious how you got involved in that.
Yeah, so I'd been studying acting for about 5 years at that point. I had my mentor was a guy named Virgil Fry. So he's an actor, but is also more famous probably for his daughter Soleil Moon Fry, Punky Brewster, and. So he taught me in the craft, broke me into the business, and eventually it was my manager. How that gig kind of happened though was Linda Francis, who was the casting director, had seen me in a showcase, which was a thing that started in the 80s where actors they throw they get casting directors and agents and managers to come, and we do 3-minute scenes for them. And if they liked you, they'd take your resume or whatever. She became a fan. She cast me in a movie that didn't happen. And then that came along. And so she really championed me. to come in and do this audition. And then there's a famous story where I pulled a fake knife on the casting director, put it underneath his throat and shit, which is what you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
He was actually a reader. He went on to become a very big casting director, and he would still tell people to this day, don't ever do that in an audition, which I agree. But I was young and hungry and crazy, and I took a risk,
I love hearing when the actor goes the extra like mile on it. I remember we do indie film, and I remember there was an actress that came in playing a mother, and when she came in, she brought like silverware and plates with her in a bag. So
Wow.
when she sat down to the table, yeah, she started like setting the table for everybody. And I never forgot that. You know what I mean? That was quite a impact. You know what I mean?
Again, some casting directors would say that's a no-no, don't bring props. So there's a lot of rules they have, but
Yeah.
sometimes you break the rules and sometimes it has a good impact, So
She had great prop comedy, but the acting thing wasn't hers, so she didn't quite get the role. But I always, to this day, I still remember her doing that. So she did
Right.
something right. You know what I mean?
Well, that's something I learned over the years too, is that you just because you didn't get the job didn't mean you didn't leave an impression.
Yeah.
I remember, I think 21 Jump Street, I went for like the pilot or something, or a couple auditions, didn't get it. A year later, I got something, and as soon as I got there, the producer was like, "Yo, I remember you. You were wearing this," and I mean, he remembered the outfit I was wearing, from like a year ago. You're just like, people, you just don't know what people remember, and if they may be trying to find a job for you down the road. So you just got to stay positive, keep showing up, keep doing your job.
That's the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I dig it.
Although some actors get discouraged if they audition for the same show 3 or 4 times and then don't get something, and they start taking it personal, and that's not going to work out, because if you come in with an attitude, they're not going to see you again. I auditioned for My Name is Earl for 4 seasons till I got a guest star on there, and I got by far the best job I auditioned for. So it wasn't that they didn't like me; they kept bringing me back. They were trying to find a job, and in the end, I ended up getting the best job. So. But there, like I said, some people get bent out after a while. They're like, "Well, what do you want? Just tell me what you want." That's not going to get it. You got to keep it going in there, being positive, doing your gig.
Yeah, for sure. That's like great advice too, because it's a small when you're going to the same people back and forth. If you lose kind of, if you fall out of their grace, if you will, that's definitely not a good look for you.
No, definitely not. Another piece of advice I always give is, if you can get 3 casting directors in LA to believe in you, you can work. Because they're the gatekeeper, man. If you don't have those people in your corner, you're not going to get seen. So if you can get 3 to be like, Linda Francis made all the difference in the world. For whatever reason, she took a liking to what I did, and she made it a mission to find me a job, and that changed the trajectory of my life.
So with Children of the Corn being your first film, right now we all know it to be a cult classic. Did it pop when it first came out, or was it one of those kind of slower things?
No, it popped because I started getting recognized everywhere I went. So it popped. But that being said, horror was considered, B movies. It wasn't taken seriously by critics. The critics panned the hell out of it. The critics panned me. They panned everybody, but they panned the movie. I think that they were very surprised. I think from the 80s to now, 40, Children of the Corn 40th anniversary is next year. Yeah. I think they would be very surprised to find out that we're on the right side of history and they're on the wrong side of history, that horror has become completely mainstream. I don't think that they would have ever seen that coming.
That's true. I mean, you're a great talent, and you've been blessed to jump through genres, you know what I mean? But did you ever find that horror label to be a kind of a burden, or was it kind of a good thing because you knew that almost, that you're good in that genre, that, there'll always be approaches,
Now, I really, after the impact of that character, I wasn't even thinking so much it's horror and then I'm stuck in that genre, but just the impact of playing the heavy, playing that character Malachi. I made a very conscious decision in my 80s, ended up having a really good 80s run. I made a very conscious decision to not play the same role twice. And I ended up being able to achieve that. And thus, like you said, I ended up having a hit in, almost every genre. And that, in the end, I think having that body of work really helped me make the transition into adult acting, because I showed I could do more than one thing, Yeah. I showed that I was really, a character actor. I could play many types of roles, and I could do comedy, I could do drama, and I think that served me well. And in the 90s, a lot of the pivot was to guest starring on television, and that was just because of the market. There was really no I was no longer a teenager, but I wasn't in my 30s. There really wasn't a lot in that gap at that time. So I made at that point, I made a decision to, grow my hair long again, comb it back, grow a goatee, look as close to 30 as I could. And I knew I could play Mad Dogs. And I did a run of Mad Dogs, a guest starring on TV. I played a lot of heavies, and that served me well. But had I not had that body at work, I wouldn't have been able to make that transition,
Yeah, for sure.
It's easy to get pigeonholed, and you're going to be pigeonholed to some degree anyway. But at that point, then one person might see Can't Buy Me Love, and they're like, this guy is really more the boy next door comedy, and they'll see me for those roles. Somebody else sees Children in the Corner, they're like, oh no, he only does bad guys. I'll see him for that role. So I had different casting directors seeing me in different lights.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're like Hard Bodies, of course. Can't Buy Me Love. These are like staples of the time. If you the swing of it, and it's so cool because like movies are so pop culture and everybody loves them so much that it's really you go right into the hearts of everybody. Like that's why movies are so great, and music as well. Which
it's right place, right time, right? So
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to, when teen cinema was blowing up in the 80s, I had training behind me, which gave me a definite edge over a lot of young actors. But also the key was to be 18 so you could legally work 40 hours or whatever it was, but look 15, which I did. So there was a lot of things that tipped at the right place at the right time. Then you just have to seize that opportunity,
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely cool. We'll pop Back to the Future, of course.
Yeah. Who knew? I mean, Robert Zemeckis was going to go on to be, as huge as he was at that point, and who knew that would go on to be one of the biggest trilogies of all time. Just amazing. Even have a small role in one of the biggest trilogies in Hollywood history is mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Do you have any early memory of a young Zemeckis? On set,
Yeah. So the main thing that took the most time was the dance, right?
Yeah.
We shot that for like 3 days.
Really?
And he shot it any and every way he could think of. I mean, we just shot and shot and shot and shot. What I mainly remember is with him, because he was pretty easygoing, and he's pretty mellow. But Crispin, who I'm a huge fan of, the first thing I ever did was an AFI film with him, where that's a story for another time. I mean, we'll circle back to it. But I already knew Crispin, so I was hanging out with him a bit on set, which was nice to know somebody. But Crispin is super creative, and he always wanted to do another take. So after every take, he go to Zemeckis and go, hey, let's do another one. I can do it. He's like, no, Crispin, it's fine. No, I can do this. No, Crispin is fine. No, Crispin, it's fine. We're moving on. He drove Zemeckis crazy, man. It was hilarious but he's just so creative. He always has another idea. He always has another thing he can do. I think Crispin's fantastic actor. You can't stop. You can't take your eyes off him.
Crispin Glover is very like almost underrated. I feel like
I agree.
He's like he's got like a Christopher Walken type vibe of his, like, you know what I mean, his elk, so to speak.
Well, it's very complicated. Who knows for sure what the deal is? But when they wanted him to be in Back to the Future too, and he asked for a lot of money, I guess, and they said no. Then they used somebody else and used his likeness. They put a facial cast on him. Well, Crispin sued Universal, Spielberg. He sued them all. He was pissed off, and he ended up getting a huge settlement. I don't know the number, but it wasn't small. And I think though you go against the studio like that, you're probably going to be blacklisted a little bit. Would be my guess. So, but he literally changed the course of history in Hollywood in that way that nobody will ever do that. It's like there's a legal precedent now that you can't just use somebody's likeness because you feel like you can.
That's kind of like what we're going through right now with all this AI stuff. He was like super ahead. Somebody give him a crown. He's super ahead of his time. That.
We worked again on a show called Texas Rising, a miniseries, and he's still, even though he had that settlement, it's still, pissed off about it. And he really felt they did him wrong. And I agree, but he had the guts to go against the studio system. But you're right. It is a precedent for AI, and that leads us to the conversation of the strike a little bit. And I've certainly saw this moment coming at least 10 years ago, maybe 15 or 20. But I remember that time there was a Paula Abdul commercial with her dancing with Fred Astaire, and I was like, it's coming. And I think that that's, you know, all the actors are asking for at this point is, if you're going to use my voice or use my likeness in any way, that I be compensated. I can't control you not wanting, like, you want to use a clip from, you know, Malachi in the background in the cornfield. I can't stop you, but you should
Yeah.
pay me for it, you know? I
Yeah.
think that that's legit, you know?
Well, even on the music side of things, aren't they doing that with really big artists now too, where they're buying their catalog out from the family, so to speak, so they just own everything and they don't have to they don't have to continue to pay out. Like that's the new thing.
There is that option. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it depends. Music, it's even more complicated. Like, who
Yeah.
owns, you know, this rights or that rights or the master rights or blah, blah, blah. But if they're there and they want to buy them, they can. I mean, that's, again, talking about the strike.
Yeah.
If you look back at what happened in the music industry, I think it's exactly what's happening now. So when music went digital, that was the beginning of the end for the music industry, because the CD that they were making for $1 selling for $15.99 was gone.
Right.
So what the music industry started doing was pivoting to catalogs, which is just what you were talking about. If you look at like Warner Brothers Studios, which was right where I used to live near Toluca Lake, they had 5 major labels underneath them: Atlantic, Epic. They bought all those up, and then they bought a bunch of smaller ones too. So they own this giant catalog of music now. And how they really make their money now is they sell it to commercials, to films, to television. And then when people, like kids, see those songs, like they hear a Journey song, they go, "Oh, what's that song? That's cool." Then they go find Journey, and then they buy some songs. Yeah. And that's how they did. One of the way bands make money nowadays is to be touring, you know. So they don't make money selling records anymore. So I think the same exact thing as film has now gone digital is the same exact things happening. It's going to hurt movie theaters. There's no DVDs to buy anymore, you know, and the main thing for actors is the residual income from streaming. They're not paying anything now, whereas in television streaming, when things went from the movies to cable to television, you saw residual income. And for an actor of, you know, my size, you know, a middle class actor, that's the difference between paying your rent that month when things are slow or not. It's just that simple. So that's why the strike is, you know, they're holding so tough on the strike, because if we don't have that residual income, essentially the middle class actor is toast. I mean, that's just, and if the middle class actor is toast, which it may happen, and like I said, I saw this coming for a long time. Yeah, I think that you're going to lose a lot of the best talent, because if they can't make a living at it, they're going to go do something else, right? It's like, if you know, if either that or they're going to be willing to have a side hustle, but there's going to be people who are just going to be like, I'll just do real estate, or I'll just do that, you know. Like, where are the smartest minds now? They're in Silicon Valley. Why? Because that's where the money is, you know.
It's like that thing they say, you know, you could almost, like with that middle class deal, it's like the supporting cast, you know. You can say you could have a star, might not, don't have to be the best actor, but that supporting cast will save the movie, you know what I mean? And
right.
those are the people,
you need stars to put butts in seats, and whatever that is that causes that is what makes a star, right? They don't necessarily, like I said, they don't necessarily have to be the best actor, but yeah, sometimes it's highly underrated how important the supporting cast is. It's actually a really good word for it, supporting cast, you know. And I've been mainly a supporting cast, of course, my career, but I've also had times where I've been the lead, or I've done a lead in a play. And I'll tell you, you really realize how important it is to have those people around you when you're like the person on stage the entire time. Somebody comes on, he knows really great, and is going to carry the next 15 minutes of the show. You kind of get to take a little bit of a break, and they write, you know, you kind of get to breathe a little bit and then get to the next thing. I started to realize, my God, it really does matter. Your supporting cast really does make it. And I think you've already seen it get weaker also with, you know, nowadays there's a lot of regional, like I'm in the Southeast now, you know, there's a whole Southeast market, the Atlanta market, and where they're casting local actors, and the local pool has gotten better, don't get me wrong, but you could see at times where the talent level is not what it was in LA. But they're doing it to save money too. They'll hire local talent to save money. And you can see the talent pool's not what it was, at least not in my mind. And I think you're gonna, you know, I think you see the same thing in music now too. Though I don't think you see in the 60s and 70s, you probably saw some of the best, brightest minds of their generations doing music, because it was fun and they could make money at it.
Yeah. I always hear people saying, and not well, I should say, underground filmmakers always going, this strike, it's going to be good for the underground filmmaker, which it's not good for anybody realistically. I don't see it being too good. I mean, yeah, you have a little more opportunity, but I feel there's always going to be that line, you know what I mean, between.
Everything's a double-edged sword. If you're right, somebody could use the strike to maybe get hold of an actor that's not working or whatever, right? So it's but you take advantage of the moment. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. But I mean, independent filmmaking, talk about an uphill slog nowadays. Holy cow, man. I mean, I've produced a few films, but it's just tough out there. There's just no when the distributors nowadays, there used to be a time when they paid advances and stuff. Now they don't want to pay any advances. And there's, again, you're getting on these streaming services. How are you making any money? I think it's almost impossible for an independent filmmaker now to actually break out. I mean, it happens, but it's like 1 in a million, man. It's very tough.
It's a scary thing. I feel personally, I think that the future is in things like Patreon, where like you can have your product there and people can do a monthly like subscription and support you monthly type deal, and you put everything there. I think that's kind of probably.
Well, you're right to some degree. I think that is happening, and really that's circling back to the record. That's how I'm distributing this record this time. Is instead of going through I've tried the Spotify's and I've done the iTunes and all that, and it really just never really paid off.
Yeah.
So this time I signed with a label called Fake Fang Records. And there, you have to go there to get the record. You can either get a digital download. You can listen to the record 3 times, and if you like it, then you can either do a digi download, or there's going to be a limited run of CDs, and then there's even a lower limited run option of signed CDs. Oh, and since we're on the note, on Monday, the singles Lookout's getting released, where people can go on Fake Fang Records and hear it, and if they like it, they can do a pre-order. And if you do a pre-order of the record, you can get a personalized signed CD. That's the only other way to get that would be to see me at a convention. So if you wanted a personalized signed CD, go pre-order the record.
Very cool.
Yeah, we're going direct this time. We're going direct, and I think we're going to do better this way.
Yeah.
So
I really do. I think it's better for the artist because, like you said, if you find a distributor, they usually take a big chunk. They get their hand in the pocket pretty deep. You know what I mean?
And what are they actually doing? Like, other than they've created the platform, okay, but like I haven't seen, they're not helping me sell my record, so it's like this way. I have a record label who's invested in it, and I'm invested. Here I am talking about it, right? We're hustling, to make it happen and get the word out. So we should see the benefits,
For sure. Yeah, for sure. It's like smaller distribution. They really just want to kind of fill up their roster. And then the filmmaker has to do all the hustling and the pushing and the promoting and marketing. And then for like.
And take all the financial risk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy. I'll be interested to see where the strike goes. Because I think that, there's beneficial things for everybody in there. And yeah.
I think as usual, the producers were ready, and they usually out negotiate us from what I've seen over the years. And I think what the streaming services did was, over the last few years, was just buy up a lot of content. Like we were talking about the record labels, they like have enough content for 6 months to a year easy, and they're starting to invest in that Squid Game, when that broke out, the whole Korean market opened up. They're investing in Korean film and a lot of films that they're going to be streaming. I think it's a worldwide game now. I think the technology is now so cheap to make movies and stuff. It's not like it used to be when you shoot 35 millimeter film and it costs a lot of money. I think that it's not just about Hollywood anymore. I think that the whole world cinema is blowing up. What's going on in India, what's going on in Korea. And so again, the unions aren't as strong as they were. They're not the only game in town.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see where it goes. I forget who it was, but it was one of the high up producers said something about like her studio heads was like, we're not going to fold until they're like starving and losing their house.
It was Bob Iger, and he became the face of evil at that point.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty cold thing to say, but maybe, and Disney's in a lot of trouble right now anyway. So we'll see how I think they'll come out of it, but because they own ESPN, ABC, like they own a lot of stuff. It's not just Disney, but they're kind of the hated entity right now because of what he said.
Well, that's cool stuff. I mean, look at the way they're treating the people that create for them. What do you think they feel about the audience that they're selling to? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Disney.
Right.
Disney's always been good to me. I've had a lot of success through Disney.
Yeah.
Can't Buy Me Love came out through Touchstone, Sweet Home Alabama. But that being said, the reputation of Disney is that they're notoriously cheap. The
Yeah.
people who work for them. So yeah, they've never had the best reputation. And then he kind of went and just showed just where they're at. So yeah, he's the face of the producers, the bad face of the producers right now for sure.
Yeah, for shizzle. But I want to pop into a film that I love.
Yeah.
Dennis Hopper directed, Colors.
Yeah, man.
Magnificent. It's such ahead of its time. Movie.
Yes.
I cry at the end of that movie every time. That ending scene is like, it's so impactful. It's crazy.
It's that Duvall's death scene is personally the best work I've ever seen, live,
Yeah.
I was 2 feet away from him,
Yeah.
and after it, I was just so blown away. Like a little kid, I had to go up to him and I was like, dude, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And he was very humble, and he was like, I wish they had used my first take. I wish my first take, my master, was the close-up, because I don't have another one like that in me. And it was true. So what happened was, right before they were ready to film, there was a problem with the light, and so he was already on the ground and all ready to go, right? Like, like call him in, it's go time. The actor builds to that moment. They come in, they're ready to go. They're like, I'm sorry, we have a light problem. And it was like 45 minutes he was lying on the ground. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is Robert Duvall. It's 2:00 in the morning and he's in the dirt. Like, what are you doing? And finally, Dennis Hopper comes in and goes, okay, we're ready. You ready? He's like, yeah, I'm ready. And then he just killed, right? Just killed. But it was the master.
Yeah.
And afterward, they did the close-ups, and the close-ups were good, but the master was like special,
Yeah.
And if you'll notice, now you're a film watcher, you'll notice when they go into the close-up, you'll look, it's grainy a little bit, and it's kind of at a weird tilt. It's because they blew up into that master.
Okay, I have wondered that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a brilliant move to make, because 2 reasons. One, because the performance was fantastic, but the way the film was shot, Haskell Wexler is, like award-winning cinematographer, but for like documentary style stuff. So like that handheld, the steady cam. And so you could get away with that, like, a little more like, jump in like that real grit feeling, because that's the way the whole film was shot. But I thought that was a brilliant move to go in there and get that, because you literally see the film as the moment he dies, the kind of the film like lightens up for a second. There's almost like this little, I'm like, the dude like affected the freaking 35 millimeter, you know what I mean? Like, it's something happened. I mean, he's a shaman, dude. It was incredible. It's the finest piece, like I said, it's the finest piece of work. I was already a huge Robert Duvall fan.
Yeah.
And he just really delivered, man.
I love the documentary style when you talked about the cinematographer coming from that. I love when that William Friedkin, who rest in peace, just passed away, was known for like a lot of that documentary type throwing. It's like The Exorcist and stuff like that.
Best horror film ever made. I mean, I don't see how you can argue it. People always say, what's the best? I mean, The Exorcist scared the crap out of me as a kid. The crap out of me.
Horrifying. That's the number one for me too. It's just, I think it's whether you're religious or not, I think it's that the devil thing. It's so iffy there. It's scarier than a Michael Myers or Jason, because it's this spiritual monster that, like, maybe I would have to deal with this person.
Right. To me, the premise of any good movie, people are like, what genre? I don't care about genres. I care, can I possibly believe this? And I felt like, I was able to believe that concept, that this girl, was inundated by evil, something had taken over. An entity was that seemed more plausible than, I think one of the reasons Children of the Corn plays is because there's always going to be teenage angst. Like, that's like rock and roll. It never is going to end. There's always going to be rebellion. And the idea of like, could kids take over a small town? That's possible. That could maybe happen in a small town, right? Yeah. So it's not it's possible. And I think that's always the key is could this happen? When you watch movies like what was it, like the Mission Impossible, not Mission Impossible, was the Charlie's Angels, in the first scene they're jumping out of airplanes with no parachutes. I'm like, I'm out. That's just not,
Yeah.
no one's jumping out of a freaking helicopter without a parachute, bro. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's that crazy. So I'm already like, oh, this movie's just gonna be like candy, it's not.
Bubblegum, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with colors, Dennis Hopper, I love him. He's the greatest. Rest in peace. Passed away way too soon.
Yeah,
and,
man.
And he was like a great actor, but when he comes into the directing things, he was it felt like almost a complicated artist. You know what I mean? I know, like he resented Easy Rider, I believe. Like he want his name. I think he wanted his name taken off of it at one point or something like that. But like complicated, but like super talented,
Well, yeah. So my mentor, Virgil Fry, helped him make Easy Rider. If you look at the credits, you'll see that he gets 2 credits. He's in it in a scene, but he also gets a makeup credit. But he actually did more than that, and that's how I was able to get the colors. I was shooting Count Buy Me Love with Gerardo Mejia, who ended up playing Bird in colors as well, and he'd gotten the script, and he knew I grew up in the tough neighborhoods too. And he's like, dude, there's a white boy, and so I called my manager. There's a white gangbanger. I got to get in on this because I know there's nobody else who knows this stuff but me, So when I got back into town, all I had to do was take a meeting. I didn't even have to like audition because they were having trouble finding a white guy who understood the culture, But I said I grew up in tough Chicano neighborhoods in LA. And there was there's a guy named Billy Red who was a redheaded kid I went to grammar school with, who actually became a gangbanger. And I was like, the day he saw that movie, his mind must have been blown, because like there I was basically playing him, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I always pay tribute to Billy Red.
Shout out, yeah.
Yeah, but white cholo. You got to be crazy to be a white cholo. You got to be a little crazier.
I love that movie.
But Dennis Hopper, his ability. He was an artist. He wasn't just an actor. He was he's a filmmaker. He was a photographer. He has photography books out. He also was an avid collector of art, particularly like pop art and op art and stuff like that of like the 60s. And he my mentor, they collected a lot of art. My mentor was not a rich man, but he had a serious art collection, because they got in the 60s like Lichtenstein's and George Herms and all these guys who became huge. And he made us learn all that stuff. We would actually, toward the end, we were actually working out of the class out of his house, and he'd have all these artists on the walls. And I'd be like, what does this have to do with acting? He's like, you're an artist. You need to know, you need to know artists. And it wasn't until I went to the Martyr Museum in New York that when I recognized over 50% of the artists by sight, that I realized he'd gotten into me. I knew who Monet was. I knew who Lichtenstein was. I was like, holy, this guy actually got in my brain. So now as an adult, I appreciate that. But Dennis is all of those things. He's always ahead of the curve. He saw all that art becoming popular way before it became popular, and bought a lot of it, like getting Tiffany lamps when they were like $1,000. Now they're worth like $7,000, $10,000.
Yeah.
So he did that with Easy Rider. He showed the America the whole that whole hippie / shopper culture, plus the kind of rock and roll music he infused into the movie, all of that. And then he did, when he did Colors, like no one had ever talked about the Bloods and the Crips and stuff. Most people didn't even know what they were, but he was living in a very tough part of Venice Beach, California, where he knew about all that stuff. And when he got approached to do the movie, it was just a cop movie. He said, "No, you got to make it about the gangs in LA." He goes, "You do that, I'll do it." And not only did he expose the whole world to that, but essentially West Coast rap was born out of that. Nobody knew who Ice-T was or any of that stuff.
Huge soundtrack.
Yeah, but nobody, at that point, rap was an East Coast thing only. So that movie essentially broke West Coast rap. So that kind of cultural impact, not that many filmmakers were able to accomplish that, but it was because he was an artist, and it was because he could see trends. And you think about it as a filmmaker, as a filmmaker, you make the film, it's not going to come out for like a year. So you have to be like at least a year or possibly 2 years ahead of a trend, right? To introduce it to the world. Not that many people are capable of that. You know, I give the guy a lot of props.
For sure. As a filmmaker, I'm always curious of method with Dennis Hopper about, because you hear those things from being kind of wild and stuff. Is he kind of is he real collaborative, or is he kind of like, how is he on set?
How I would describe him on set. So I'll say it overall, and then I'm gonna tell you my personal experience.
Yeah.
So overall, he's a chameleon. He communicates with whoever he's communicating with, however he sees them, how he's going to get through to them, but also where they are on the hierarchy, right? So like if he's talking to, if he was talking to Robert Duvall, they talked as peers, you know? And a really good example of that was the scene where they pull up on us the first time we meet the gang, and the kid had thrown the rock at them or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they blame it on me. And Duvall's character has this monologue, and it was going good, but what Dennis Hopper just came to him and said, hey, you know, you already have a relationship with these guys, and you know, Sean Penn's character has a shotgun.
Yeah.
And that's all he needed to say.
Yeah.
To Duvall. He took the note, and then the next take, he's like, put that shit away, man. And it just informed how he talked to us from that point on, you know, and it made the scene. So that was just like actor to actor, you know, with respect talk, right? Now, me, anything I did, most of the rest of us, the little gang, he would, you know, be pretty intense. Here's a story. So the first scene we ever shot was in the what they called the power plant, where you know the guys trying to get us out of the gangs, and they're doing the doing the monologue. You know, my gang is Es Primero Holmes, blah blah blah, right? So he calls us into the room. He's got this cigar. I'm gonna grab this for an effect. And he's like, this fucking movie means a lot to me, man, because they think I'm making a cop movie, but I'm making a movie about the gangs. And he just fucking scares the shit out of everybody, right? It's like, but like, we're like, you know, so kick ass. So then Gerardo has this monologue. His first day on set, Dennis Hopper comes at us like that, and then he has a monologue. That's tough. Like you try to make it easy for an actor on their first day.
Yeah.
So he just keeps making Gerardo do it again and again, and he's giving him no direction, and Gerardo's dying. And he looks at me like, Courtney, like, what the fuck should I do? And I don't remember what I said to him, but I taught some acting by that point and stuff too. And I came up to him and I gave him a really good note. I forget what it was though. And then Dennis Hopper saw me, and he's like, he would always call me by my character's name. He goes, Whitey, get the fuck away from my actor. And I'm like, all right. He didn't know that Gerardo and I knew each other. So the next take, Gerardo fucking kills it. He goes, cut. No more takes. He fucking looks at me like, the fuck did you say to that guy? You know? And from that point on, he was tough on me, but like he got the most out of me too. Like he saw me playing guitar. He was going to the bathroom at the trailer. I was sitting on the stairs playing guitar, filed that shit away. The girl talks to him about, hey, can I play a song in this thing? He's like, yeah, goes, cool. Goes, Whitey, go get your fucking guitar. You know? And the next thing you know, I'm fucking a cholo jamming music. I'm like, you would never see this. This is not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and people still to this day fucking write me going, where do I get a copy of this song, Love Guarantee? I'm like, I have no idea. I didn't write it, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like he files away, nothing gets past that dude, and he puts it to work. He makes it art. Like in that movie, he uses every beautiful mural painted in East Los Angeles. Yeah. You know, he uses the watchtowers. Like he shows the art even in that world. You know what I mean? Because he's an artist, you know?
It's very raw, and that's why I like. It's like a great. It's perfect. Like the California. It's like you know how Scorsese has his New York. You almost there's like the Hopper California to it.
It was the first movie to really show that. I mean, I'd seen lots of movies before that tried to do it, and they always looked terrible because I grew up in it. I knew the difference, and that was the first movie that really caught it, and all the extras were all real bangers, you know. And those guys would keep us, in line. If we were like, I mean, we had this dude, I forget the dude's name, but it was with us in our gang. If he didn't like the way my pants were creased, he'd get out a fucking comb that he had and he'd fucking crease my pants because that's how they do it.
Really? And
you're just like, fucking, that's dope, right? It's like, he wanted to make sure that we were representing them right, and I was all for it every step of the way, but like that, bringing those guys in created an authenticity that you just hadn't seen before, you know?
Yeah, very cool. Do you have any stories about Trinidad Silva played Frog. He passed away like right after Color.
Yeah, it was tragic, man. I mean, he was so great in that thing, and that was so gonna break him out. I mean, he'd had that character in Hill Street Blues.
Yeah.
Arillo, you know what you're talking about, you know. And then that's why I was curious, like, how is he gonna take that and then do this? And I thought he created such a different character, but so authentic. He was just a really great guy, really easy to work with, really cool, really chill, and I just loved the choices he was making. And it was really a tragedy because I thought that film was really going to open some doors for him. You know, he was so good in it.
He was incredible in it. Yeah.
Best line, man. After we jumped the dude, which I also got yelled at for that because I wasn't leaving. He's like, "Why did you get the fuck out of here?" Because brother comes in, and he's like, "You fucked up, Holmes. You joined the gang." That's just fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
You know? That's not what you would expect him to say, right? It's like the exact opposite of what you'd expect him to say.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. You fucked up, Holmes. You joined the gang.
Yeah, they jumped his brother in.
Yeah.
Very Yeah, I think UHF, I think, was the last thing he did. I think he was shooting that when he got hit by a drunk driver.
Got in a car accident. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Tragic. Yeah, he was great. It's what's Louis Guzman. He would have took the Louis Guzman roles. There'd be no Louis Guzman.
Yeah, you're right. They probably would have been competition for each other. You're probably right.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about the Burbs real quick, and then I want to jump into some music. I love the music. I've been listening to it heavy.
Cool.
But the Burbs, oh my goodness, I gotta say, it's probably one of the greatest comedy films ever made. You know what I mean? It's so great.
Well, if you love horror and then you like, that's your kind of comedy, you know.
Yeah. And what it hit me right at the right age when you're young enough where like you got the horror mixed in with the comedy and it's okay, you know what I mean? Not a big issue.
Yeah.
So how'd that come about with Joe? Meeting Joe Dante and all that. How was that an audition process or?
It was a meeting. So again, at that point, I was on a pretty good run, right? I was pretty hot, right? And so I got called in to take a meeting, and we just discussed the role, and he gave it to me. And it was weird to be at that point because like before that I had to audition. I still have to audition to this day for various things. Some are offers, but I was at that point where I was taking meetings, and I don't know what he saw in me, why he picked me. I really can't tell you. Maybe something I said, I don't know. But he had, as far as my character went, he had a huge hand in shaping it. He told me lots of things. Like he's like, I want you to come up with this dialect that people can't quite figure out what it is, but it's like Eastern European. And then he's like, go to the hair people. I'm gonna have them cut your hair like this. Go to these guys, get some teeth done. Yeah. Go to the wardrobe people. Here's these, and they would have all these ideas, and then he would not have to come back to him with like the teeth after the haircut or whatever. And he started laughing, and he goes, "You're never gonna work again." He was hilarious. And but he really, gave me physicalities and everything. He really shaped what he wanted. So in that way, I didn't have to a lot of times I have to figure out my own wardrobe choices to some degree with the wardrobe artist or this and that. He really provided a lot of what he wanted in that regard. The biggest thing I brought to the party was I worked with an animal essence, which was a scared deer in the headlights. And if you watch the film, you can see that. You can see that that's exactly what this guy is. He's like a stranger in a strange land. And that worked for me. But I'm certainly always grateful for him casting me. And I worked with him a couple times, and I would work with Joe anytime. He's a great guy and a great talent. And it was speaking of strikes, there was a writer's strike right when we started shooting that film. And I was too young. I'd been working so steady. I was too young to actually realize how lucky I was to have a job. It was us and Fletch 2 on the entire Universal lot. It was like a ghost town.
Yeah.
It was just us. And again, I didn't really realize how lucky we were to have a job. So
I know in some pre-production situations, groups of friends and family get together. Was there ever like a Klopek family meeting, or you guys go out?
No. I just remember the producer Larry Brushing, who's also a big time comedic manager. He was the one who brought in Brother Theodore, and he's like, now Brother Theodore, he can be kind of like grumpy in a chance. Don't let him turn out. Me and Brother Theodore got along like butter. You know, when they tell me people I'm not going to get along with, that's usually the people I get along with.
Yeah.
And he's not like that character. That's a character he created in New York. He had this thing called the Brother Theodore Review that he would do in the summers that then eventually got onto Letterman. And then eventually people like Larry Brezhner was like, I want to put this guy in a movie. He's a very intelligent guy. And like he, you know, we'd say in his trailer, and you know, he'd play chess and he'd spot you a queen and kick your ass. You know, like he was a smart dude. He was, so I got along with him great. I thought he was a fascinating guy. He came, you know, his family came from Europe and all this stuff, and yeah, he was very interesting. But like his Brother Theodore, that character he created was a way for him to do social commentary on things that he thought was crap, which, you know, go to the record. We can talk about, that's what I'm doing in this record. I'm talking about social commentary about things I think that are crap, you know? So,
yeah. Well,
but,
let's dip off into the music for a little,
all right,
you know?
all right.
So like when did the music officially kind of come into your world? When did you start you always a fan, I assume, right? And then just
it started at the same time. I started taking guitar lessons the same time I started taking acting lessons, about 13 years old. But my intention to be an actor, a professional actor, was, you know, that was the intention. I just wanted to play music. You know, I just liked playing music. I wasn't trying to think about, my goal was to be a rock star. But I always played, and as soon as I got to the point where I could, you know, play decently through lessons, I stopped. So I didn't want to learn too much. I wanted to teach myself, and I wanted to write. That's what I really like about music. I like writing. That's that creative moment of putting a song together is I can't explain it. It's very fulfilling, and it comes from a variety of ways. I mean, sometimes it's just some riff you're writing, like the title track of the thing, Safe Haven. I just started picking up bass for this new band. I decided to become a bass player singer, and that riff, that walk down just started happening, and that's what spawned that song. It was, I probably wouldn't have written that song on guitar. So, but other times it's some lyric you're writing, or like I do this thing called morning pages that I write every morning. And sometimes an idea just starts flowing out of there, and the next thing you know, you've got some lyrics, and now I'm trying to write a song that fits the mood of what that brought up. And music's been therapy for me. Like my previous band, Ripple Street, I put out a record in 2009. If you listen to that thing, it's just a breakup record. It's just all about processing that process. That's where I was at that time. That's what I wrote. This record, though, is definitely more of a storytelling record, and more of a things that I want to point at that I think are, you know, a little shallow, a little lame. Like Billionaires in Space is sort of mocking the billionaire space race, because I'd like to see those guys do something better with their minds, like to help on planet Earth. You know? So that, you know, that was just a topic that was hot, and that was my take on it. Was like, this, I think this is kind of like indulgent, you know. So there's that song, and there's a song called The Healer that's told from the point of view of a plastic surgeon, you know, trying to talk a woman what he can do for her. Basically, he's God, and he can, you know, he can create her prettier than, you know. So there's just a variety of things like that. And Safe Haven has multiple meanings, everything from how important it is that we just have a place, a home, you know. We take, you know, there are people who don't, you know. It's how important it is that we have a space to come home that's a safe space when we're, you know, outside the world. But also music has been a safe space for me. So it's about music, and it's about anybody's, whatever that thing is. Some people, it's watching The Burbs. Like I know people whose families like watch The Burbs, like it's their family movie, right? Like, or when they're depressed, that's the movie they watch. That movie is part of their safe haven. You know what I'm saying? That place where they can, when the world kicks you in your ass, that you can regroup, right?
Yeah.
We all get kicked in the ass, man. You know, you know, there's good shit happens in life, and there's bad shit happens in life. It's just how quick can you get off the campus, right?
Yeah, I've always loved music. It was one of the, you know, it's one of the expression, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, when you said it was therapeutic, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, that's what it is. I think I tell people, I always tell people, like if I'm talking to somebody and they're like down and out or something like that, I say, try and do something creative, you know what I mean? Because I think if you create something and you can be proud of it and go, whoa, I actually did that. Like, I think that's a first step in like feeling better about the situation, so to speak. If they're feeling, you know, like worthless or whatever, all those beautiful things depression can bring,
Well,
And
it helps process it too, right?
yeah,
Because art, is happening on a subconscious level as much, if not more, than it's happening on a conscious level. You know what I mean? It's working. It's work. I call it like somewhere back here. You know what I mean? Like stuff starts. It's like the shit that happens in our dreams, right? We're processing stuff, right? So it's clearly necessary that we process, or we wouldn't have to sleep and we wouldn't have to have dreams and things. You know,
yeah,
clearly we have to work some of this stuff because we're getting so much information, and now even more than ever, right, through internet and all that you can get yourself all worked up, man. It's like you got to pull back and observe and see what's going down. I think art, because that's why if you just don't judge it, right, that's the key, is you just don't compare your shit to something. If I try to compare myself to fucking Rush or Led Zeppelin, or forget it. You won't even write a song, right? It's like, don't do that. That's just whatever whatever's coming through you is coming through you. Don't judge it. But that being said, it then takes, it's hard to then, like, I put this album together and now I'm putting it out and hired a PR team, and I've gotten a few good reviews now. But like, the moment of truth, when you finally put that, you work on this thing and you work on this thing and you finally get it out there, and you're at the point where, like, I don't know if this is any good or not. Like, I can't even tell anymore. I've been in there mixing and shit for so long. I don't even know, but get it out there and hopefully somebody will like it. At least one person might like it. And if you affect one person's life as an artist, I think you're successful. I really do. And like I said, so far I'm getting really good feedback, which has been very cool, and it means a lot to me. So,
yeah, that's the beauty of art, man. I remember, like, whenever I'd have hard times back in the day, I'd throw on a movie, and that's what I really fell in love with movies, was the fact that it could pull you out of could help pull you out of, for an hour and a half or whatever, it'll kind of pull you out of whatever you're going through.
Right. So, it's the same reason people are always trying to get out of their own skin, whether they're meditating or do drugs or watch movies or listen to music. It's because we get sick of ourselves. You know what I mean? We want to, like, escape this reality for a while. But yeah, better to do it on a positive way than do it in an antisocial way. That'll just make you worse in the end.
Yeah.
Won't solve the problem at all.
When I listen to the music, I hear like some folk, some rock, even some like grungy, heavier stuff. Like, can you break down the influences? What you got them, or are they just?
No, I don't write that way, right? I can't think like, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to be like I know somebody who worked with Bryan Adams, and he would say, like, okay, this song's like an AC/DC song, and hey, it worked for him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he succeeded, right? And that's cool. But that's not how I do stuff. I do stuff through feel, right? And like, yeah, some of it seems to have like a bit of a surf vibe, right? Like, and stuff like that. I didn't consciously go for that. It's just what happened. I don't come from there. So my influences are wide. I talk about it. Like, I grew up, again, in a Chicano neighborhood. So I grew up around oldies, and oldies, I think, are great in terms of songwriting. When you look at, like, Carole King wrote a lot of those songs and stuff like that. They have real structure. So I think that structure got into my subconscious. One of my favorite songs is Aaron Neville's "Tell It Like It Is." That song kills me, man. Yeah. And his voice, if I could sing like Aaron Neville, I would sing like Aaron Neville. Like, if you could, like, but I'm not gonna sound like Aaron Neville, brother. Yeah, that falsetto he can do is just otherworldly. I don't know even how he gets there. You know what I mean? So I love him, but I know I can't be him. That's the same way I approached acting. Like, I had to study Marlon Brando and Monty Clift and James Dean to understand method acting. But I knew right then, even at like 15 years old, I am never going to be as cool as these dudes, right? Like, these dudes are like, they got this good looking thing. They got this charisma thing. That's why they're leading men. But I can understand the technique they're using, and I can put that to work in my own way. So that's kind of how I approach the music too. Like, I'm not going to be Led Zeppelin, so don't even bother trying, right? So, and I think that some musicians fall into that trap. They get too caught up in like how somebody else did it. I go for the feel. I go for a feel, and whatever comes out comes out. And again, I try not to judge. I try not to go, is this good? Is this bad? Because I look at it from a creative point of view. If it got created, it got created, right? It's like, there's this place, they found this place in the universe that is kind of like the birthplace of the universe, where it kicks out shit. Mm-hmm. Like, literally and 80% of it doesn't fucking live. Yeah. So it's like, even the universe is kicking out shit that isn't any good, right? So it's just like, we just creatives just have to create, man.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned as I've gotten older now. It's like, I'm not going to stop doing this. There's just I can't, you know what I mean? I'm going to keep acting. If somebody wants to have me in something, I will keep doing it. If I have a guitar and my fingers aren't too arthritic that I can't make a chord, I will be writing songs. And whether somebody else likes them or not, or I can get them out there on what level, I can't control it. You know, I can just put my best foot forward on that stuff. But the actual creative component part of it, which is a pure thing, which is not a monetized thing, which is not a fame thing, which is not any of that shit, is just, to me, it's somehow connected to this creative thing called the universe. Be honest.
I'm with you. And that, you know, comparing yourself, the expectation is so heavy when you compare yourself to other things that, like,
I tell my son, don't compare your, like, because of Facebook and Instagram, don't compare yourself to somebody else's highlight reel.
For sure.
Because that's why people are getting depressed, right? Like a lot of these teenage girls and stuff on Instagram, because they're looking, oh, look at this, they're living a better life than me, or oh, this person gets more hits than me, or oh, this person's prettier than me, when they're doctoring their shit up to make it look like that, and they're falling for it. You know, they're falling for this BS story. You know, it's not relevant, man. You know, it's really not. But it's a shame that, yeah, if you compare, we all compare ourselves. We all do. And look, if somebody's like a great actor, they do a great job, I'm not gonna lie, I get jealous. That's the highest form of flattery. Ultimately, is when I get jealous of their work. Yeah. But it doesn't stop me. It just makes me want to do better. But there are some people who, they see somebody's talent is so vast, and they're like, I can never be that good. Why bother?
Yeah.
Why bother? Because you need to express yourself. That's why.
Express yourself.
That's right. I do that all the time. When somebody says a phrase, I start singing a song.
I love it, dude.
Love
it. Alex, we got you.
Yeah.
Let's grab a comment while we got you.
Oh, yeah, before you're gone.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask was that you were in the movie Faster. You played the telemarketer.
Yeah.
And you got, how should I say, roughed up by the one and only Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah.
So how was that? How was that scene?
I'm gonna tell you a story. So this is good, because this is going to encapsulize him. And so the first scene we had to shoot was the scene where we have them and we slit his brother's throat. Right? You know the scene I'm talking about, where after they've robbed the bank and we've got them. Right? So he gets his throat cut, and then Dwayne Johnson goes, no, right? Like, that's the scene, right? The director had him do that for like 3 fucking days, right? Now, I'll tell you, if it had been me, after the 3rd take, I'd have been like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like, just tell me what you want, because I don't want to do this shit no more. Like, this is painful and hard, and I'm blowing my throat. And I'll do it for you, and then we can move the fuck on, right? But Johnson, not once did he flinch. Not once did he have an attitude. Nothing. 3 days. No. Yeah. And I mean, I couldn't believe it, right? Like, he sets the bar, right? The leading guy is just like, whatever you want, I'm there. So finally, we're done. Like 2.5 days in, we're done. So now we switch to my side, right? Yeah. I have all this dialogue, right? I get like 3 takes, 2 takes, whatever it was. George goes, cut, moving on. And at this point, I already could tell Dwayne Johnson is a cool dude with a great attitude, right?
Yeah.
And we've all been going through this, the entire crew and him, right? We've all, in the cast. I turn and I go, see, man, that's how it's done. And the fucking whole room's like, ah, and he starts laughing. Now, there's not that many leading men you can do that to. You understand what I'm saying? It was like we all needed that fucking laugh, you know what I mean? Because it'd have been like intense for like 3 days.
Yeah,
you know? But that just sums it up. He's chill, man. And on that note, he was the first guy to pony up for the actors' strike. He put $1 million into the acting fund for actors that are gonna be struggling to pay their rent through this. And I was so fucking impressed. I mean, I know he makes a lot of money, but $1 million is still $1 million fucking dollars. Yeah. And he just quietly made his statement. He put his fucking money where his mouth was and said, all right, this might take a while. You know, let's keep y'all going. And then several other actors followed suit, but he was the first guy to pony up. And I think that just tells you where he's coming from, man. I really do. I like the guy. I would work with him again anytime, man. I love to tell that story.
3 days, my God, that's like Kubrick type stuff.
It was, but like it never broke his spirit. He never questioned himself. Like, you want another one? I'll get another one. And it showed his like years of playing football and being coachable. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like just let's go, yes sir. You know, he just had that mentality of being coachable, which just showed a lot of humility. You know, because he could have certainly just said, "That's fucking it. I'm not doing another one. Moving the fuck on." And the director, because he's the lead of the movie, and he's you know, but he didn't. He didn't. He just set the tone that like we're all in this together and we're gonna do it till we get it right. You know, it was awesome.
All that, the wrestling too is heavy paying dues. I mean, yeah, you'd rather go through that than getting slammed and slammed and slammed. You know what I mean? But I'm glad to hear that story. And like, were you kind of, you know, it's an iffy thing because you see someone who coming over from a sport. You know what I mean? And it's someone who's been acting forever, you know what I mean?
But I had seen enough of his work by then, and there was some work that he did where he took some real crazy chances and did some fun stuff that I was like, this guy's he's bold, like he's not afraid of the moment. Like, you know, you saw it in his character, you know, saw it in his character The Rock when he was wrestling too. You know, he knew how to work a crowd and all of that. You know, but some of the roles I'd seen him do way before then, what I was interested in that role, because so much of the stuff he did was a little more, you know, family friendly, like Tooth Fairy and all these things. I actually worked with the director who did that as well. This was like a more heavy role, and the cast was a more heavy cast, and you know, bringing Billy Bob Thornton in, and I was like, all right, this is a more gritty role for him. You know, let's see what he's going to do with it. I was just there to support that, you know?
Yeah.
I thought the movie came out well. I thought it didn't do great in the box office. It's gotten out there though, and it was on TV played a ton for a few years, but I thought it was a damn good film. I thought it came out pretty well.
By the end, The Rock is going to be the president, and I'm going to vote for him.
If he ran, I'd vote for him too. I would, but I wouldn't be surprised. I might start as governor of California like Arnold did first, right, and then parlay that into running the country.
And everybody loves The Rock. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is like, it's hard to not like that guy. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So Safe Haven, October 2nd, it comes out, right?
Yeah. So the record Safe Haven comes out October 2nd. You can only get it on Fake Fang Records, so you gotta go fakefangrecords.com, I guess, or whatever. You'll be able to find it, and you can listen to the whole record 3 times. If you like it, you can download it, or you can get a CD. And like I said, it'll be there's some exclusively signed CDs, and if you pre-order with Lookout, it's coming out on Monday, and that song I would say is if I could do a music video on Lookout, it'd be like very 40s, very film noir, because it's kind of that kind of story about a boxer who's supposed to throw a fight, you know, kind of deal, and what happens.
Very cool.
Yeah, so you can check that one out if you like it. You can pre-order. If you pre-order, you get a personally signed CD. So
Acoustic Gains. I rock that when I make breakfast every morning. That's how.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that's a more personal record. That's acoustic. That's most of it's, you know, a little more personal. That was the first foray starting to track some. I put a little home theater thing together, you know, and started tracking some songs and learned a lot, and then tracked some more for this one. And now I'm at the point where I don't want to track in my own home again. It's a lot of work. It's hard. It's cool, but you can. But it's been a process, and that Acoustic Games Volume 1 started that process. So.
Was that like a COVID recording? I know you said
it did all start during that time. I think like everybody else during COVID, where you start realizing, whoa, man, this might be it. Shit. Scary. Like, what is it that matters to you? What is it you want to do? And what came up was music, you know, because I had a lot of material. I've been writing for years, and I've put some of it out, but I have a lot more material that I hadn't put out. And I was like, I really want to get this stuff out there. And then I started, you know, you had the time, started looking at, and started realizing the technology is at the point now where you can buy equipment relatively cheap, and you get Pro Tools now almost for free, which back in the day cost like 20 grand. So it's become a more doable thing to do, because that's really what stopped me, was just the studio cost. And the pressure being in the studio too, like you feel like by the hour you're losing money, and it's just it doesn't feel creative, you know. I was like, I can do vocals at my own time. I can do as many takes as I want. I could just ease into this and do my thing. And I think that actually helped me a lot. But yeah, that's when it started. And that led to, during that time, I put out that 5 singles on Spotify and all that, Acoustic Games Volume 1. Also, my band I still had at that time, Ripple Street, we put out 4 singles, one even about January 6th called The Great Divide. that we were going to put out, and then the 6th happened, and I just put it on YouTube like immediately because we almost had the video done. I was like, we're right here. The song's just about, they say you got to choose this or choose that. No, you got to be for gun control. You got to be, against it. You got to be, but no, that's not it. It's like the divided they conquer, united we stand. I mean, that's really what's up. So. Yeah. I wanted to say something about that because that's all I've been hearing during that whole time. And I don't know if anybody's heard it or gotten anybody's ear, but that was my point of view on the situation. But so we put out 4 singles with the band Ripple Street. And then I started tracking this last record at the end of last year. And then it took a lot longer to finish than I thought. And then finally was able to get this record label to pick it up. And we're finally letting it go on October 2nd. And then I also have a band, the Courtney Gaines Group, which you can find on Facebook. For the last 9 months, we've been playing, we here in Savannah, it's a tourist town. So there's lots of bars and restaurants and things to do gigs, and all around here, Southeast really supports music. So now I have to play, like 3 sets a night, 3 45-minute sets a night, covering 70% covers, 30% originals. And it's all been about getting my chops together for that when we're going to go out and start to promote this record next year the best we can. Just got a booking agent, so going to start that whole process. But I wanted to be ready. I wanted to be, band rough and ready so that when we hit the road, we're not going to suck, So we're coming along really good. I'm really happy with it. If you go on the Facebook page, Courtney Gaines Group, you can see, I got lots of clips up there of different things we've been doing. And we're a weekend warrior, steady gigging bound. I just had a gig last night and keeping it going. And so next year we're going to be ready to rock and roll. 3-piece band. I'm playing bass and doing vocals. Got a guitar player, a really good drummer. Got 2 really good other guys holding it down, and we're going to do our thing.
Let me know if you come out to Boston. I'll shoot the show for you.
There you go. Sounds good. I will. I'll write that down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think we will. I don't think Boston's not out of reach at all. Matter of fact, I'm not doing many conventions this year because of next year's the Corn 40. So that's going to be the big one. Yeah. Also, the Swan Song. I'm going to step out of the convention world after that. I've been doing it like 15 years. I'm ready to take a break, but it's been good. But I'm ready to take. I just don't want to travel, and I don't get on planes anymore if I don't have to. But I'm doing a thing called Phantasm Con on October 28th at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut.
Yeah.
I know that's not that far. That's probably like an hour or plus, right?
Yeah. Connecticut, the Mohegan Sun's like an hour plus. Yeah, I know.
You should let me know. I'll get you in.
Word up, hell yeah! Also, I used to shoot a bunch of rock and hip hop shows up at the Middle East, and I'll send you. I know Ned, who I think he runs downstairs. Maybe we can get. Maybe that'd be cool.
The Middle East, that's a club
in Cambridge. Yeah.
Oh, Cambridge, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my drummer's from Connecticut.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we want to play them. We're going to try to lobby to get the Mohegan Sun to give us a gig. They have a room that's it's decent, like it's not that big, but we're like we could fill it. Not the big room they have, but the smaller one. I can't think of the name of it. The Wolf Den. The Wolf Den. Honestly, we can get to play the Wolf Den. I like the stage, but I think we could fill that room up because like I said, my drummer knows a lot of, has a following in Connecticut. So hopefully that'll happen. But
yeah, I'll jot down some clubs around this area that probably
yeah,
you guys.
Please do.
Yeah,
Because we're definitely looking to figure that all out. So so that's what it's all been ramping up to that, man. It's all been ramping up to promoting this record next year and tying that in a bit with the Corn 40th anniversary and just work it all. So I think next year is going to be kind of crazy.
Hell yeah.
Fun.
Just good, crazy good, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everybody go check out the Facebook pages, go check out Fake Fang Records.
Yep.
.com. Safe Haven, October 2nd. This Monday, well, when you guys hear this, the first single will be up on the website. Check it out. You know what I mean? Courtney, this was an absolute pleasure, man. We usually ask one question to wrap up, and we kind of touch base a little bit on it throughout the episode. Alex, do you have any more questions? I don't want to cut you off. Either you here.
Well, no, not really. I mean, I loved everything I've been hearing, and I gotta say, I've been a big fan for a long time. So it's great to listen to these stories and see your point of view.
Right on.
So our last question is, we got a whole bunch of, we got filmmakers, musicians, authors, artists of all kind that listen. And we always like to ask, if anybody's going through like a slump or a hard time, like with their creative endeavor, like, do you have any advice for them that might kind of keep their head above water until, like, the sun comes back out?
Yeah, man, just ask yourself why you're doing it, right? It's like, if you're doing it, are you, there's a lot of people that come up to you and say, I want to be an actor. And I'm like, well, then act. Go on the street and do a monologue. Like, no, listen, nobody's stopping it. Like,
Yeah.
no one can stop you from being creative. Creative is not a monetary thing. So is it about that you're trying to be famous? Is it that you're trying to get loved? Is it trying to get respect? And all those things are fine. I mean, but just, if you're being dissatisfied, is it about that you're not getting the recognition, or is it about that you're afraid to put your shit out because you might get squashed? Like, because that's the other side of it. I know a lot of talented people who are afraid to put their shit out.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen painters that their shit that are really good and the shit never leaves their house. They won't do a showing, things like that. So I think a lot of people are afraid to fail, and you know what? Like I said, the universe kicks out a bunch of stuff and 80% of it fails. We're not always going to succeed. Not every song is going to be great. Not every script you attempt is going to work.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the process, man. It's all part of the process. You can't get better if you don't make mistakes. If you're going to make mistakes, you got to learn from them. And you got to be willing to work at it like a craft. It's like, good writers will tell you, they go in every day, what they feel like it or not, and they write for 3 hours. And they said a lot of it's garbage, but it's how they become better writers. So that's what I would say. I would say it's like, don't let the world and this capitalist monetary thing dictate what you do, and just get your stuff done and don't be afraid to put it out. Fuck the trolls.
Yeah,
and put it out there, and you never know. You just never know who you're going to impact, man. I mean, like, when you said, I'm listening to, your acoustic record for breakfast, like, that blows me away. I'm like, You're kidding. Like, that's awesome. If that, it all helps make your day this much better, fuck yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. That's great advice. Well, Courtney, thanks for being on the show. Would love to have you back sometime when Alex's camera's working a little better, so you can go dive a little deeper into his love. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I know he's a fan, but the weather was working against him this evening, but
no worries. Next time we have something to talk about, we'll do it again. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Man, I'll be in touch with you soon. Have a great one over there.
Thank you, man. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye. All right, folks, we hope you enjoyed that episode with the great Courtney Gaines. That was a lot of fun. You know what I mean? Catching up on the films. A lot of great stories, man. Dennis Hopper. I love Dennis Hopper. Whenever we get to hear a nice Dennis Hopper, some Joe Dante stories. My God, just stories of all over the place. You know what I mean? Frog, my boy Frog, rest in peace.
Yeah.
My boy Frog, rest in peace, dude. And I'm not being disrespectful. Very, huge fan. Trinidad Silva, my boy. All right. And that dude was incredible in the film. But yeah, very great interview, dude. Courtney's a super nice guy. Like I said, dude, house across the street, nothing but professional and great. I caught up with him again at a convention, I think, later in life at Rock and Shock. I think maybe the last year of Rock and Shock. Super cool dude. And the trifecta number today on the BoomBastiCAST. It's a beautiful day. You know what I mean? The sun's shining bright. You know what I mean? One of these days, we're gonna ask the guests, what do you do? What should people do? What's advice for if you're going through a hard time and you want to get a little pick me up? And he's gonna say, you gotta watch the BoomBastiCAST, and that'll make it all right. You know what I mean? I'm lumpy today. Me and my lumpy body are bringing in the new year earlier. You know what I mean? So, Alex, what do you got to say? What do you think?
I had a lot of fun. I mean, Courtney is a very interesting guy, and he had a lot of great, especially, I mean, as you said before, at the end, we always ask the same question: what's your advice to deal with, the downturns and the, agents not calling, not booking gigs, and everyone has a different opinion or different advice. And I really liked Courtney's where he's saying, just go out and act, go out and create art. He says that, I'm to be creative, you can just do it. You don't need someone's permission to it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Unfortunately, in in the filmmaking world, every now and then you meet some people that care more about funds than money. You know what I mean? Which is even more crazy when the money's not even that crazy.
Yeah.
Same thing. I'm twisting you. I'm going crazy on you. That might have to be touched up a little bit in Photoshop or something. But as we progress into the end of the show, we always thank everybody for listening. It's a pleasure to be able to bring you great episodes like this, right? I can call it great, right? I have a split personality, so I can call it great. I just woke up.
It's great.
My other personality just woke up. But yeah, this was great, dude. He's the man. Gigantic fan forever. I love having people on the show that, as a kid, before we even realized we were going to get into like entertaining, fans of these people. And Courtney's one of those people, you know what I mean? And that's, working with him was a great pleasure and great memory, and one of those things that I'll always cherish, you know what I mean? And speaking of cherish, great song off of the Acoustic Gains album, Cherished. One of my favorites. I think track number 2, maybe 3. Yeah. It's number 2. And I do listen to that EP while I make breakfast. That is no BS. That's for real talk. And it's great. It's like a chill, relaxed, it's acoustic, which is nice. You know what I mean? I love all types of music. I think the time has come for an end. You know what I mean? Because we're journeymen. And we're going to rock and roll and do it big. All right. So we're getting out of Slab City. We're going to Safe Haven. Everybody be on the lookout. The new album, October 2nd. All right. FakeFangRecords.com. Go check that out. Support your boy, Courtney Gaines. When you see him at conventions, go support him, buy an autograph, say hey, tell him you love the BoomBastiCAST episode. And when he hits the tour, when he goes out on tour, go to those shows. You'll be hearing about us in the audio apps talking about it. And when they come by, you best believe we're going to be up in there. And kudos to the Boombastic crew. Shout out to the Boombastic crew and Buttafuoco on the boards. New movie in the works. You guys will hear about that soon. And thanks for the support from everybody. If you will want to go support more, go head up the Patreon page like we were talking earlier. You get all our podcasts, all our films. It's the future. And then, of course, more importantly than anything, support Courtney Gaines because he's the man. All right, Alexander, I'll catch you later. We'll catch everybody later on the next episode of the BoomBastiCAST.